Wonderful to see you here, my movie peeps. Let's talk about some interesting movie news. Some of the things we'll be discussing here today, guys, is we have our first look at the fourth and final Conjuring movie. We got some pretty big details on Kevin Feige and his approach for Marvel in these next couple of movies. And it even looking like Spider-Man Brand New Day is actually going to be a prequel and what that means for the film. We'll be diving into that along so much more, so hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, timestamps in the description. Let's jump into the first story. We have some small tidbits about John Wick 5 I found kind of fascinating to talk about. So if you don't know, it has basically been confirmed that John Wick 5 is happening. Chad Stahelski, the director, is returning. Keanu Reeves will also be back. And in a recent interview with Empire Online, they had this to say. John Wick 5 will begin a new story for the character, says director Chad Stahelski. John dealt with his grief. It will be really different, and everybody will see the trailer and go, holy F, I gotta see that. And the reason I think these comments are kind of funny, because I started quickly seeing then fan theories that this movie will be John Wick in hell fighting some demons. Obviously, that's not happening, but even just imagining a universe where they're that crazy to do that, do it. I'd like to see it. I mean, they say it's going to be very different, and in the last movie, it just had John Wick die. How crazy would it be to just throw John Wick in hell and just him doing what he does in hell? You know, now that I'm saying all this out loud, maybe this wasn't a topic that needed to be on this side flick, but I think it's still just wild. We're getting John Wick 5. It's not going to be this John Wick in hell story, but it does make me think, what could you possibly do to top the fourth movie and even further elevate the story with what you just accomplished? I'm down to see it, but I throw it off to you guys. What do you think is this thing that is a new story that will be different? And even just from looking at the trailers, you're going to go, oh, I got to see. I'm telling you, I see a trailer with John Wick in hell. I gotta see that. And well, speaking of hell, let's talk about the Conjuring 4 titled Conjuring: The Last Rites. This movie is still headed and set to release this year in September, and we have just gotten our first look thanks to Entertainment Weekly, and even in the Entertainment Weekly article, a whole bunch of details of some of the key story plot points of what will go down in this movie have been revealed. So talking about those while I show you some of the first look photos, they do confirm that the case that the Warrens will be doing will be one of their most infamous cases that the real-life Ed and Lorraine Warren had to tackle, and that's the haunting of the Smurl family. Again, this is a real-life case and is one of the most famous hauntings that has even been televised, has had documentaries and TV shows written about it. Some details about that here is the Smurl family haunting is one of the most infamous cases of alleged paranormal activity that captured public attention in the 1970s and 1980s. The haunting dealt with Jack and Janet Smurl along with their two daughters and Jack's parents, who lived in a modest duplex home in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. When living there, the family dealt with a lot of crazy, unexplained things like noises, bangings, foul smells like sulfur and rotting flesh, but some of the most craziest things that I'm now seeing reading up on this actual case is there was assault. And I'm not just talking about the family getting slapped, scratched, or pushed by these entities. They have it here marked that this ghostly figure would even try to sexually come after them. And that's something I've just never seen them really touch upon in the Conjuring universe, and I have no idea if they even plan to touch on that topic, but they do mention it in the Entertainment Weekly article. Other interesting details more specifically relating to the Warrens is in one of these first look photos, we do get a look at young Ed and Lorraine Warren, so we are going to be getting some flashbacks in this movie. I also wonder if this is the sneaky way into opening the door for prequel movies so that they can do other films without Patrick Wilson or Vera Farmiga. For all we know, these could be the stars of the Conjuring TV show that was announced a while back, but there hasn't really been much updates on it. The article also mentions that the daughter Judy will play a big part into this movie, that we will kind of be exploring what it's like for her to just be raised around all this demonic stuff. And even more specifically, Judy does have a boyfriend in this movie, Tony, who will kind of be trying to prove to Ed Warren that he's good enough for his daughter. Honestly, all these details here so far I kind of like. There was a joking line in this article I found kind of funny, where the director says he admits the team briefly entertained the idea about a dozen Doctor Strange portals opening to reveal every Conjuring entity assembled together for an endgame of sorts, but they quickly came to a different conclusion. I felt strongly the biggest and most emotional story we could tell was the most personal story. So it's funny to think at one point this movie was just going to be like an endgame of all the entities they fought into one movie. movie. I hope they land it because, like I've mentioned before, Conjuring 3 was just not very memorable. Love the first two Conjuring films, and I would just really like it if this one nailed it. How are you guys feeling on these details and first looks with Conjuring the Last Rites? Next up, I wanted to get into everything that's kind of going on with Avengers Doomsday right now, some of the small marketing and even things we've heard about with Kevin Feige that give me a better feeling about where the MCU is headed. So over the weekend, there was an article with the Wall Street Journal where they really got into some of the behind the scenes stuff that's been going on with Marvel, particularly with Kevin Feige. Now, it was behind a paywall, but a lot of other articles have sourced it and talked about the context of this article. And some of the details we've gotten about it had me so fascinated. Like, for one, it's mentioned here that Kevin Feige essentially never really wanted to do the Disney Plus shows, but just did it because, well, his bosses at Disney were really pushing for streaming, and, well, just to keep up a good relationship with them since they are his boss, he went forward with it, but has now really regretted some of the stuff that has gone on there. Like, specifically here, Kevin Feige reportedly told Marvel colleagues that watching every new MCU project has begun to feel more like homework than entertainment. Employees talk regularly about Marvel fatigue and worry they created a no new fan club where new viewers have no clue what's going on. And man, it is so refreshing and almost validating to be able to hear that the man, the myth, the legend, Kevin Feige himself can admit that. I've been talking about it and saying it here, and every time I bring up sometimes Disney Plus and the recent Marvel stuff feels like homework, I get berated with hate comments and people telling me I'm dumb or I'm just exaggerating as a Marvel hater, which I'm not. I love Marvel, man. But now, I mean, you can't fight with me when Kevin Feige himself has admitted to it. And even when this article came out and this started going around, I started seeing a lot of fans fighting against Kevin Feige, saying, "Nuh-uh, not too, Feige," which I don't even know what to tell you, man. I'm just glad that he knows it, is aware of it, and they are making some changes. Because even in this article, they also mentioned that the Disney Plus content is going to be scaled back, that they're aiming to go to 1 or 2 shows a year, and even then that the content on there will be disconnected from a lot of the bigger MCU stuff. Meaning it's not in a separate universe, but more that it doesn't have to directly affect the stories of the films and make it seem like you have to, which has happened. You have to really watch WandaVision to get why Wanda has turned evil in Doctor Strange. I think you have to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier if you want to really appreciate John Walker or even Isaiah Bradley, either in Captain America 4 or the Thunderbolts. And just that kind of super connectivity is not going to be present in the future of stuff. And I'm perfectly happy with that because we're about to get the Punisher special on Disney Plus. And although I bet you that's not going to have any world implications on the MCU, that's still something I am so excited to watch, and as a story I'm fine being kind of standalone within the MCU. But this article was just so eye-opening to why there's been so many problems in the MCU within the later phases after Endgame. Because Kevin Feige having to consult on multiple Disney Plus shows, multiple movies in the works, still have his plan laid out. He was put in a situation where we got this. Kevin Feige was spread so thin at Marvel in the early 2020s that creatives wouldn't hear from him and spend weeks on work only to get feedback that was too late to implement. Some staffers had to resort to chasing Feige down in the hallway for answers. And again, that's just because Kevin Feige is only one man. He can only consult and keep his eyeballs on so many projects at once. And the article mentions that Kevin Feige had major notes on movies like The Marvels, but by the time he gave those notes, it was way too late to do anything about it. The article mentions that they have done an overhaul and now like an executive of Marvel oversees the TV stuff where Feige will now just focus on the movies. And Thunderbolts is actually the first movie where this overhaul is really into effect. And I mean, I think that's working for him because Thunderbolts right now is pretty universally loved by a lot of people. And I think is also a movie that works well of not having that issue of where it feels like homework. That feels like a movie you could just pop in and it tells you the information you need to know and you can enjoy it. And a new fan can be made from watching that movie. Honestly, just all stuff that makes me so much more excited for Doomsday because we're already seeing some of the small marketing that they're doing for Avengers Doomsday has kind of already kicked in. Some of you have already seen that they've just flat out spoiled and reveal what the asterisk in Thunderbolts actually represents, and that's the Thunderbolts being the new Avengers. But if you go to the official social media pages of Avengers Doomsday, it is the copyrighted old Avengers that we found out in Thunderbolts that Sam Wilson has copyrighted himself, and not the new Avengers logo that is the Thunderbolts team. Just kind of little minor stuff, but it's the buildup we're starting to get that lead us to this movie. And honestly, before Thunderbolts, I was kind of like, yeah, I'm excited for Avengers Doomsday. After Thunderbolts, really looking forward to whatever happens in Doomsday. But I throw all this stuff to you. You like some of these changes, you think it's warranted. That article did end with people saying Kevin Feige has a 10-year plan after Secret Wars that involves mainly the X-Men. If Kevin Feige isn't looking to be overworked, then yes, I'm really excited for what could be happening. But that now brings us in to talk about some Spider-Man 4, aka Spider-Man Brand New Day. Man, we have some intriguing little details that have been popping up lately with this film, and it's really looking like this film is leaning a lot more into it being a street level movie as opposed to a multiverse film, which I have been begging for. First off, we had this detail put out by Daniel RPK, who says Marvel Studios is currently casting for teachers in Spider-Man Brand New Day. We are expecting Tom Holland to go to college in this movie, meet maybe some more familiar comic cast members like a Gwen Stacy, a Harry Osborn, possibly even bump into Ned or MJ again. And Daniel RPK has been throwing out these little details that do make us lean more into the street level side, like with him saying the other week that Sony is casting prison inmates for a scene in Spider-Man Brand New Day, and that just makes me think about a Scorpion or Vulture breaking out of that prison. But really, the most intriguing part of all this is if this does turn out to be the case, then that means Peter Parker, Spider-Man in college with the timeline we currently have for Avengers Doomsday, then Spider-Man Brand New Day, although the movie will come out after Avengers Doomsday, the story itself won't take place during Doomsday or even after Doomsday, but instead will be before, making Spider-Man Brand New Day a prequel to Avengers Doomsday, kind of similar to the way Ant-Man the Wasp was a prequel to Avengers Infinity War. Now, again, I like this. I'm okay with this. I want to see a street level Spider-Man movie, and I'd rather build up to another big thing again, No Way Home style. Just hearing the details about, casting prison inmates, casting teachers, Peter in college, that to me as a Spider-Man fan is getting me so excited to what this movie could look like. But what's even more intriguing is people have brought up a good point, okay? Spider-Man No Way Home took place at the end of 2024. At least that's according to the stuff I've been seeing online, right? And by the time Avengers Doomsday will start and begin, that movie will be in the year 2028 within the MCU, not when it releases to theaters. That's the timeline within the MCU. No Way Home ends in 2024. Avengers Doomsday will start in 2028. And if Peter Parker has begun going to college in 2024, well, then that man has gone through his first 4 years of college, essentially graduating if he's just getting his bachelor's. That is a pretty big gap, and so much of Peter Parker being on his own, being solo, that we would miss out on. When you look at it that way, then it totally makes sense why Spider-Man Brand New Day would be a prequel, taking us back to the events before a Thunderbolts, before Doomsday, possibly even before Captain America Brave New World. Because there is just so much of time that happens that it's like, well, I just don't want to fast forward through Peter Parker's entire college career. It'd be kind of a bummer if they start out Spider-Man Brand New Day and he's already graduating college. So when I kind of looked at it that way, it made a lot of sense to me. And it also made me realize, dang, how much the interconnected universe and the spaces between movies kind of matter. But then if you think about it even more, let's say like Brand New Day takes place a year after No Way Home. Well, then if he pops up in Doomsday or Secret Wars, that's 4 years later. It's like, man, is the entire trilogy going to be a prequel to the events before Doomsday? Will we actually just have some of that time skipping going on? Because from all the rumors, it's seeming more and more likely. Like Spider-Man might actually just not show up in Doomsday, which, okay, fine. But I think he's got to be part of Secret Wars. So it does make me wonder, how do you do that then? Maybe I'm overthinking this and whatnot, but I mean, there's a clear problem there, or Marvel could just ignore it and have it happen whatever year they want. But I think this is certain stuff we got to look at and wonder about where it fits into the overall MCU. This wouldn't be the first time there's like some year continuity stuff. You remember Homecoming literally started the Spider-Man universe in an awkward spot. Maybe I'm just thinking too hard, but it's like, okay, Spider-Man Brand New Day could be a prequel to Avengers Doomsday. Would you be okay with that? Or did you want it to actually take place on Battleworld and have this big multiverse story? Anyways, guys, that is all movie news we currently have going on right now. I'm gonna thanks so much for taking time my day to watch me talk some movie news. Don't be forgetting to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.